J-Mac and J-Mac. Going to be joined by a J-Mac coming up in a couple of minutes. McMullen, McDonald, and McClain on the way on Birds 365. John McClain has only been writing about the league for decades. Like Damo, been there, done that in almost every single aspect of the word. Yeah, Deshaun Watson will be the number one topic we get into, but we're going to get into a lot of things across the league with John McClain when he joins us from the Houston Chronicle coming up in a couple of minutes. All right, JM, you tell me you got those Quez Watkins slot numbers. I asked you about this earlier. We were talking about the wide receiver group this year on how you and everybody else, except for me, are trying to push Greg Ward off the field. And part of that is that Quez Watkins could get time in the slot this year. And I wondered aloud how much time he actually spent in the slot last year. It doesn't mean one has to be beholden to the other, but what can we actually have on film to judge Quez Watkins' abilities to perform in the slot? What were his numbers coming out of the slot last year?
Yeah, not obviously not a lot. He only played 119 offensive snaps, Jody. So that's how little he played. For the vast majority of them, 91 times he was lined up outside. He was only in the slot 25 times, and he was in the backfield 3 times. So you could see they were trying to use him a little bit as a decoy because of the speed, because of his ability to run by people. So I don't think the Eagles' new coaching staff got much from the film and said, oh, Quez Watkins can do this from the slot. I think it's more of his speed, his size, and let's see if he can play in the slot is basically where I think they are with Quez Watkins. During the small windows we had in the off season, in the OTAs, they were doing some interesting things as well. When they were down by the goal line working on red zone work, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside would play in the slot. They were trying to take advantage of his size, but only down in the red zone and trying to throw those sort of post patterns. You know, you run to the back of the end zone near the goal post and just throw the football up and see if you can come down with it. So they're going to try some different things to get these players on the field. Bottom line is they got to perform. They got to perform, and if they don't, your guy's going to be out there.
And I'm still in the Greg Ward camp, and I'm not going to be pushed out anytime soon. All right, it will be Jalen Hurts throwing those passes up to J-Jaw, making great grabs near the back of the end zone. I need to see that with my own eyes. It won't be Carson Wentz. And speaking of Carson Wentz, I saw this on Pro Football
Talk. A lot of Carson
Talk.
Wentz news.
Yes, apparently did an interview with Beth Hool of the Valley News in North Dakota. Didn't ever hear.
Well, he was doing his softball game out there. So it's one of the few times you get, like yesterday, Jason Kelsey was doing charity in Sioux City. So you get him away from sort of the NFL vibe. Sometimes you get some stuff. Obviously, Carson's very comfortable in North Dakota. So, yeah, he's talking about his mental health, talking about a new passion for the game, talking about it all, Jody Mack.
Right. Are you a big fan of Beth Hool's work? I didn't know.
I don't know Beth, but she did a good job getting Carson.
She got some info. I need to read this for the Eagle fans because let's see if it bothers them as much as it bothers me. And more power to her for being able to get him to open up and the like. But some of the things he said and the stances he took seemed to be incongruous with what we saw here in the last year. He was asked about mental health in an interview, and Carson's response was, "It's sad that it wasn't socially acceptable, but I think it's more understood now because I think everyone can relate. I think it's okay. People are realizing that it's okay. It's not to be okay to talk about it. Everyone's got somebody in their life, whether it's a counselor, teammate, friend, brother, wife, pastor, whoever it is. If they don't have that, they can hopefully find someone like that. I've been fortunate to have people in my life when things are going south or I'm struggling to have an honest conversation with, to refocus, reframe my mindset. And I think that's so important for everybody." Where were these people this year? when things were going south with Carson. He says he's got him in his life. Did they all take vacation from October until December last year? Nobody got him straightened out. Nobody gave him solace. Nobody gave him honest opinions.
Well,
that
maybe
you're
they
playing
did,
like
Jody. You don't know. Maybe they did. It just didn't work out. But I do look. We just had Damo on. We're going to have John McClain on. If you've been around for a while in this industry, you tend to develop some cynicism, and that's where I am with this kind of stuff. Look, we know where we are in society as a whole. There are certain things that use whatever phrase, terminology you want, are politically correct, and you have to say certain things. And I think guys very conscious of their brand as we talk about it, which is on the forefront, and certainly NFL quarterbacks are in that conversation. They know how they have to act, Jody, and they play a game. There's a little cynicism there. What you can say is didn't work for Carson Wentz. I don't know. He might have had those sounding boards. He might have gotten good advice. He didn't implement that advice to a successful degree here. Good luck to him. Maybe he does it in Indianapolis.
All right, maybe I am cynic as the day is long. Don't you need to express that to Carson? I had these sounding boards, and I didn't listen to any of them last year. Or the advice they gave me wasn't quite what I needed, and it didn't pan out for us. Rather than just, I had people around me, and now I feel so much more comfortable. People still want explanations as to what the hell happened last year. Carson Wentz went from a guy who was MVP caliber to not even ranked in the top 32 quarterbacks in the league. And by the way, there were only 32 teams. Yeah, Carson, we still want some answers about what the hell happened last year. We've got our own speculation, but we'd rather hear it from the horse's mouth as to why things went in the tank for you and the Eagles last year.
If you were to ask me what the problem was, I center on two things more than anything else. I center on, one, health. He's not the same guy. He's not going to say that. I mean, if he does, he'd be the first athlete to say it. I don't know what you gain from that. And the second part is, he didn't work in the offseason. His mechanics have gone steadily down. His fundamentals have gone steadily down ever since John DeFilippo left this organization. I don't know whether the player's going to admit that as well. Oh, I didn't do what I should. Maybe occasionally you'll hear a guy say, I didn't do what I should have done in the offseason, but very rarely. So I don't know, Jody. If you want honesty, you're not going to get it much in professional sports these days.
Okay, just let me double check something. So we've moved on from Jalen Hurts' draft pick in the second round getting in Carson's head as one of the top reasons.
I just said the two most. Look, it got in his head. I mean, that I don't know if you're trying to say it didn't. It got in his head.
Well, if you're not putting it in the top two.
Well, because I don't think it is in the top two. I think ultimately the bigger issues is he's not the same guy physically. And he didn't, as we talked about, taking Aaron Rodgers, again, MVP of the league, upset about a certain situation. Okay, but he overcame it and became the MVP again. In Carson's situation, I think he's very upset that the Eagles drafted the quarterback, but he also isn't the same physically, and I think that's more important when you sort of do the autopsy, so to speak, on his downfall. We always talk about, COVID was a big thing, the pandemic. You see how many hundreds of thousands of people died of COVID. When you have an autopsy, you have something called a comorbidity. And in other words, you might, the doctor that might put down you died of a heart attack, but you also had other issues as well. There were a lot of issues that contributed to Carson Wentz leaving Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts was one of them. He wasn't number one. That's where I am.
Fair enough. And I'd like some more comorbidity answers, but we're not getting them from Carson Wentz. We are going to get a lot of answers from our next guest. He's one of the best in the business. He's been doing it for years, covering the National Football League with a bent toward his hometown of H-Town down there in Texas. John McClain of the Houston Chronicle is going to join us, hopping aboard Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.